Hello, hello, my diamond heads. Welcome to In the Zone podcast. I'm your host, Diamond Zone, and before we begin, I am definitely really disappointed about last night's podcast. Mainly because of the chat. Now I'm just gonna make a few announcements here before I begin. First off, if I don't mind that you guys, I don't mind that my viewers chat. That's something I really don't care about. Like, you can, if you want to chat, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine by me. But it has to be with the topic. It has to be with the topic that I'm talking about. It cannot be a different. It cannot be a topic from about another. Um. It cannot be something from a different topic that I'm not talking about or something that I'm not interested in. Again, this is my podcast. This is my podcast. And keep in mind, this is a privilege. This is a privilege. I can turn on my chat. I can turn on my chat at any time if I want. I can turn it off at any time that I want. Like I said, it's a privilege to have the chat open. Because there was a couple people that were messing around, which again, I don't mind people messing around on my chat, but it was so irrelevant to the topic that I had at hand yesterday or last night. It was out of topic, and they were just disrespecting my podcast. I don't care if you don't like my podcast. That's the thing. I don't care if you don't like my podcast. I don't care if you don't respect me. If you don't respect me, that's fine. If you're a close friend of mine, why are we friends? If you don't know me personally, I do not care. I do not care. But what you're not going to do is go on my chat and talk about some nonsense that, one, I'm not talking about, two, that's not in my interest, and three, that isn't about my podcast at all. My podcast is to help people understand how hard and how difficult autism people with autism have it. Of course, I phrased it wrong. What I meant to say is how difficult it can be for a person that has autism. And of course, I also talk about pop culture stuff. That's the thing I talk about as well. And I interchange both pop culture and autism and ADHD because I'm going to be talking about both autism and ADHD from time to time. And same thing with pop culture stuff. So what's not going to happen? What is not going to happen is people coming in on my chat and disrespecting my podcast. Now, I don't take myself seriously most of the time. I do not take myself seriously most of the time. The times that I take myself seriously is with tests, is with it's with competitions, it's with quizzes and studying. Those are times I'll take myself seriously. Most of the times when I'm not stressed out, I goof around. I goof around. I lay down. I goof around here and there. The times where I'm not being serious is a time where I'm not going to take myself serious. I'm going to relax. Does that mean that you should be disrespectful to me and my podcast? Absolutely not. I'm not going to have that on my podcast. I'm not going to have that on my chat. And again, everything about my podcast is a privilege to you viewers. If you're not going to take me seriously, that's fine. Do not come into my podcast and look. I don't mind. But do not be disrespectful not only to me but to the viewers that are viewing this and is really interested in this topic and or in my podcast in general. Do not be disrespectful to me or them. Actually, do not be disrespectful to them. If you want to be disrespectful to me, by all means, be that way. But you're gonna make other people mad as well. You're gonna hurt other people that have interest in my podcast. So respect my podcast. Respect the viewers that are interested in my podcast. Because of what happened last night, I'm not gonna have the chat open to just anyone. It's only going to be to people that have subscribed to my Twitch for more for a month, and of course on a bi-weekly basis. I'll change it depending on how I feel about it. But for now, the chat is only open to people who have subscribed to my channel for a month. Again, I'm going to change that on a bi-weekly basis or every other week. Until then, I'm not sorry for it. I am not sorry for it. Like I said, this podcast is a privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege. My chat is a privilege. Me talking about what I talk on here is a privilege. I'm not going to deal with anyone's negatively toxic stuff. I'm not going to deal with that because I've come so far to take 3 steps back. I've come so far to not take 3 steps back. So again, if you don't respect me, that's fine. Do not come into my chat. Do not view my podcast. If you don't respect me, like I said, that's fine. Do not chat. Do not type on anything on the chat. Do not even look at my podcast. Be respectful to the ones that do respect me and my podcast and are thankful for it. Because not only you're not making my podcast suffer, but you're also making other people who enjoy my podcast suffer. And that is something I'm not willing to tolerate. That is something I'm not willing to tolerate. So, to the viewers, to the 25 people that are following me and are watching my live stream, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That has to happen. But it has to happen. Dang, this needs to charge up a little bit more. I'm sorry that I had to do that, but I had to do that. Now, before and one more thing as well before I get into today's topic. If you look on my bio, it says that I'm going to talk my about my experiences with autism and ADHD and and some pop culture stuff. And I always say this as well. When I'm talking about when I'm going to talk about autism and ADHD is mainly going to be based on my experience. Because it's going to be based on my experience, other people who have autism or ADHD can relate. Or people who are friends with a person who is autistic or ADHD can can help them out. That's what my podcast is for. It's to help people who have autism or ADHD or both to relate. They can't because there are times I know myself that I can't relate to a lot of things. And when I look on social media, there's a lot of things I cannot relate to. So I made this podcast so it can be relatable to people who are neurodivergent, mostly people who are autistic and have ADHD, or both, because that is what my podcast is for. It's to help people who to relate. It's to help people to relate to people who have autism and ADHD like me. And not only that, it's also for both neurodivergent and neurotypical people because I'm also going to be talking about I'm also going to be talking about, again, pop culture stuff. More specifically, some Taekwondo stuff, pickleball stuff, anime stuff, whatever. So, get that through your head. Overall, overall, my podcast is for not only me, but for anyone, that has ADHD and autism, and for anyone that likes pop culture stuff. It's for all of us. And if there's going to be someone that's going to be ruining it for the people who are interested, then I'm going to take any I'm going to take any drastic measures to prevent that from happening. Now, I'm not gonna take down my podcast. That's the thing I'm not gonna do. Just because a few bad people want to ruin it, I'm not going to take down my podcast. But but I will halt the chat. I'm going to halt the chat if I have to, which I'm doing right now. So to the ones that want to ruin my podcast, you're only ruining it for the ones that are interested. You're not ruining it on me. You're not ruining it for me. You're ruining it for the ones that are interested. So, again, I do take myself seriously, and there are times where I don't take myself seriously. My podcast is something that I do take both seriously and not seriously, because there'll be times where I want to talk about the most random stuff ever. There'll be stuff that I want to talk the most heartfelt, the most relatable thing ever. So that's why I said I don't mind taking myself seriously and not seriously, because I can fluctuate between the two when needed. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about that. And if it continues to happen, then I will postpone my podcast if I have to. I'll put my podcast on hiatus if I have to. That doesn't mean I'm going to shut it down. It just means that I'm not going to be streaming for a while, for a good chunk while. That's all that means. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to take it down. It's just going to be a halt. Take that as you need. Process process that if you need to. That's all I'm going to say about that. Overall, this is a privilege, and I'm going to take away that privilege from anyone that wants to ruin it. It's not only going to affect me somewhat. It's also going to affect others who are interested in a wide variety. That's all I'm going to say about that. So think, think about what you're doing. All right. So outside of so with all that being said, with all that being said, today's topic today's topic is Taekwondo competition. That is today's topic. Is Taekwondo competition. Oh, no, I know it's just my phone then. All right. Today's topic is Taekwondo competition. Now I've been to so far in my Taekwondo career, I only have been to two competitions. Sadly, due to due to budget, due to finance reasons. Because sometimes the competitions will be in another city in Texas or New Mexico. I prefer going to the ones in New Mexico because the one in New Mexico is closer. The last one I went to, which is this past Saturday, was one over in Belen, New Mexico, which is a 3 hour drive, which somehow I was able to pull off going to and from the competition. Surprisingly, the first competition that I've been to I think it was in New Mexico as well. I don't completely remember because it's been a while since I've been to that one. So I don't know. So I don't. Oh yeah, it is in It was in New Mexico. I just don't remember what city. I think it was in Alamogordo. I know it was in Las Cruces. I think it was in Alamogordo. I don't remember. That's how long it has been. But regardless, I do have the medal. I do have the third place medal for it. I do have that medal for it. And like I said, recently I've been to my second competition over in Belen, New Mexico. Again, that was a 3 hour drive. Longest 3 hours I've ever been on. Not gonna lie, longest 3 hours I've ever been on. But overall, here's how I did in the competition. So, before I say how I did in the competition, I have competed in these three um tournaments actually subjects in these three subjects. I did weapons form, I did regular form, and I also did board breaking. So I was the only adult for weapons form. They're the only adult in weapons form. I got first place for it. Now the regular form, I got second place. I got second place. Well, because the other adult that I was competing against, he probably did a lot better than I did. Then third thing I did, I got second place as well. I was doing speed board breaking, and I got second place by apparently by 2 seconds. Apparently by 2 seconds. When I was done with the competition at the time, I was told that I got second place by tenth of a second. I was like, wow, that's fast. They were that close. But today I but today I was told that I lost by 2 seconds and my jaw dropped to the ground. I was like, excuse me, by 2 seconds? By 2 seconds? I know I was bringing boards really fast. I was bringing boards really fast. How I know that? Because I was very so fast where the board breakers were barely keeping up with my hits. I was doing hammer fist. I was bringing board with hammer fist. I was going so fast to the point where the board breakers were having trouble keeping up. And somehow I lost by two. I got second place by 2 seconds. I'm just like, I'm surprised. I'm surprised I lost. That I got second place by 2 seconds. By 2 seconds. And I know that I missed. And I know I missed board one. I missed one of the boards, and I had to break it again. Well, I didn't break it the first time, so I had to break it the second time. I was like, go through it again. But yet I lost. I got second place by 2 seconds. I'm surprised. That is something that I'm just like, I knew I should have beaten her if I didn't miss that board the first time. But I lost by 2 seconds. Again, it's something that it was totally unexpected on my end. I thought it was really close. I honestly thought it was really close. But hey, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad at it. To be honest, I'm really not mad at it. I'm just extremely surprised by it. But hey, everyone did good. Everyone did really good. Now, of course the adult group went last because there's more children. There's more children competing than adult competing. But overall it was fun. Overall, it was pretty fun. If this competition, this tournament was an open tournament, so that means that different martial arts disciplines are able to go into that competition and compete within District 9 and 10. Well, actually, it's in New Mexico, so District 9. The City Diamond is a little bit special because we're close because my city is close to New Mexico is also in and my city is also in Texas. So it is that sweet spot of being in both District 9 and 10. So I can basically go to any competition in New Mexico and in Texas. That's a fun fact for y'all. That's a fun fact for y'all. But nonetheless, overall, I did have fun, and I was really surprised about the about the kids that were competing, especially with the other disciplines. I was like, whoa! I never seen that form before. Turns out it was either kung fu or ITF taekwondo, or an or a different bracket under World Taekwondo um yeah under World Taekwondo organization. So it was either kung fu ITF forms or different bracket under World Taekwondo organization. That's something that I'm just like, wow, I'm really. I know that there's other disciplines, but I didn't know that it was that the other disciplines um forms were like that. I know that it's going to be different, but I didn't know it would be that different. So that's something I really like to. That's something I really like to. I like to see. If anything, I'm probably going. If anything, I'm probably going to go to another tournament, which is next month. But I don't remember what day, so I'll figure that out. I'll figure that out probably tomorrow. But nonetheless, I will think about going to the other tournament. Again, that's in next month. I will think about it and I'll see what events are there. If it's point sparring again, if they're going to hold point sparring again, I'm going to be doing point sparring on the next tournament because if anything, I am more experienced when it comes to Olympic sparring than point sparring because that's what my class mostly do is Olympic sparring. So yeah, that's something that I'm planning on doing is to do point sparring. And point sparring is a lot different than Olympic sparring because World Taekwondo Organization um point sorry, my brain froze for a moment. Anyways, um Olympic sparring for World Taekwondo Organization, more specifically Kuksuwan, um that um it's a lot different than point sparring because when it comes to Olympic sparring, we're just using our legs and we're scoring on based on kicks. While point sparring, we're also throwing punches in there. Yeah, we're also throwing punches in there. It's basically like a game of tag. It is basically like a game of tag. So basically, throwing kicks, throwing punches, land a hit or kick. The referee stops it, and the three or four referees say who got the point. And like I said, I'm not well experienced on point sparring because I only done point sparring once. So I need to practice on point sparring more often. If my instructor does point sparring, I will also hop in on that as well. Not just Olympic sparring because I've done Olympic sparring multiple times and I have improved on Olympic sparring. And when I heard that there's point sparring, I wanted to jump in on that as well and get more experience and develop my craft on that as well. So yeah, all that is really interesting. All that is really interesting, and one of the reasons why I like Taekwondo is because not only I can see other people's skills and where they're at, and I'm also seeing other people's other disciplines as well. Well, when it comes to a tournament, open tournament. So so I'm going to be going to more competitions. I'm going to be going to more Taekwondo competitions in both the near and far future. if I have the money for it, of course. If I don't, then I'm not going to be going, because if it's not close by, I'll have to get a plane ticket, because I don't feel like driving 4 plus miles, 4 plus hours. I'm sorry, 4 plus hours to another city. And if you're not from the U.S. is pretty big. And if you're not from Texas, Texas is really big. It takes a full 12 hours. Well, hold on. Let me let me do this. All right. So, all right. So, let me see if this will catch it. All right, there you go. And all right, so going from El Paso to Dallas itself is around 9 hours. 9 hours and 33 minutes, or 635 miles. Let's see. And going from El Paso to San Antonio is 7 hours and 15 minutes. Then there you go. There you go. See, it takes a while. Let's let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. And El Paso to Houston is 10 hours and 51 minutes. 10 hours and 51 minutes, depending on which route you're taking. So yeah, it is big. So yeah, Texas itself is really huge. So you'll see why I'm gonna be taking planes instead of driving when it comes to competing in Texas. I'm going to be taking flights. I'm most likely going to be renting a hotel. I'm definitely going to be buying plane tickets. It's expensive. And and putting yourself on a roster, that's also pretty expensive as well. The Again, this past tournament I went to, I had to pay $115 to put myself in the roster for pre-registration, because I don't want to pay up front. I wanted to pay um I wanted to do that pre-registration because it's a lot cheaper. Ironically, I still paid around $115, because it is 50 for one event, and then 10 either $10 or $20 per other event. And then an extra 10 or $20 for 10 boards. So yeah, I paid around $115 for all of that. Now, if I'm doing the same thing in a different tournament, in Texas, for example, let's say I'm paying $115, plus I'm going to be paying for flights, plus a hotel as well, and probably an Uber as well. So yeah, that adds up to, I'm going to say, around 250, 200, $250, 200 to $250. It's expensive. That's why I have a job. That's why I have a job. I wish I get paid more, but that's why I have a job. So I can be able to afford my stuff. But yeah, as you can tell, going to competition is expensive. That's why I don't go. That's the main reason why I don't go to a lot of tournaments because of all the expenses. Now, if my if my instructor had insurance for events, had events had events insurance, then I'll go to a lot more tournaments because now I don't have to worry about gas and flying and whatnot. I don't have to worry about all that. I just had to worry about paying for my competition, paying for the event, and that's it. That's only if my instructor had the events insurance, which I wish that he did have, but at the moment I'm not sure if he can afford it at the moment. So yeah, but nonetheless, I like going to tournaments. I like being in tournaments because at least I can showcase my skills as well. So with that being said, I'm probably going to continue this tomorrow. I'm not completely sure. It's probably going to be a different topic tomorrow. But but that's it for today. Have a good night. Drink some water and sleep tight. And see you all tomorrow.